Hi, I'm Oliver Brown, joined by Stephen Bannister today, as usual, for our 2 mugs in coffee. We're here to talk tea market and how it's impacting you, the roaster. Welcome, Steve. How you doing?
Doing well, Ollie. Bit of rain in Sydney today, but good for the plant, good for the trees. So happy to be here.
Good to have you with us. I'm lucky. I've got sun, which is very much appreciated. I'm starting in my spring wear already. So yeah, let's hope some of our origins also see some rain. Diving straight in, sort of, let's talk very briefly about the market, and then let's move on to some of our monthly reports that we've got from the group. But yeah, give us an idea where we are with the market today in comparison to last week, and what does that look like, and where do we think that's going?
Thanks, Ollie. Definitely, I think the main thing that's happened in the last week is the expiry of the September futures contract. So all focus now is on the Z contract. Surprisingly, the market sort of done what we thought it would and continued to sort of trade slowly down sideways, hovering still around low 180s at the moment, as we've sort of done the step change from September to December at the same time. All focus has again been on the other side of the weather market, the rains in Brazil, and the forecast there. So at the moment that they're keeping a sort of lid, I would say, on the futures market, as we have forecasted rains out there at the same time, which is a good thing for all the trees. The Aussie dollar, unfortunately, is continued to get hammered a little bit, down all the way to nearly 70 cents. As we're doing the call now, trading about 72, so a little bit up from the bottom. And we're really waiting and seeing what's going to come out of the US and a few other policy aspects there that affect us. At the moment, most of us are unfortunately in lockdown in some way, shape or form, and we need to definitely get out before we'll see a strengthening Aussie dollar at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Steve. Now, the big sort of piece on our radar is obviously the monthly report that we get from Group. All of our sister companies come together, give their view of what's going on in their origin, whether it be weather, shipment, market, economic. Give us a sort of some of the headlines on what we should be looking at for each country. I know it's not a lot to go through. But yeah, starting with Brazil, where are we at with Brazil, and what are some of the things we should be looking out for?
Alrighty, I think the thing that everyone wants to know is the frost impact from the numbers and great work that the agronomy teams have done on the ground there. We're looking at about 4.5 million bag reduction in the next crop from all the trees that have been unfortunately damaged because of this weather event. Some people are higher than us, but at the moment we're pretty firm on that number, and that probably sits with a number of other trade houses at the same time. So I think that's fair. The challenging thing that's doing is now, again, why has the market changed? Because we react to supply and demand. So next year's crop, we've got a world production just sitting under now 160 million, but yet we've got a potential consumer appetite demand sitting at maybe 170 million bags. So that's almost a 10 million bag deficit. So that's going to be a challenge that we need to continue to overcome and find what's going to happen. I think if we focus on a bit more about Brazil generally, freight is becoming to be, again, a challenge, as we've spoken about before, seeing ocean freight increasing 2 to 3 times in some aspects on some routes. And similarly, just port congestion, 6 weeks late seems to be the norm on really getting those food grade boxes now, and 3 weeks if you're lucky at the same time.
And that's a huge number, 6 weeks, isn't it? I mean, where we're so used to having a quick turnaround. Oh, I need coffee. I'll just get the Condesa team to order some now. But we've again, I think our roasters haven't seen or haven't that impact hasn't quite dropped yet, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I really think just-in-time inventory is a massive challenge, and there's a lot of hiccups in the middle of getting it from the warehouse in Brazil to your roastery now, much more than even we faced in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. So it's definitely challenging from that point of view. I think interesting to also note, we've got about 35% of the next year's crop forward sold already. So there's people already in the market looking at the same time.
Yeah, wow. From Brazil to Colombia, what are some of our take homes from Colombia? Again, I know we're seeing the logistics challenges, but then we've also got economic challenges that they're facing as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen a much weaker peso over the course of the year, which has been challenging. And really, the increase in the coffee market's been a good thing. Diffs have pretty much remained at the same, though, around that +50 sort of level, +60s for certifieds at the same time. So not really seeing any change, just this sort of rebalancing thing. A lot of congestion still on the back of the Colombia ports locking up previously, as we've spoken about. And again, freight cost increases, but nothing that's the magnitude of Brazil, more just charges and other things. I think it's also an aspect to look at the weather at the same time. So again, we're focusing on temperature and getting rain in those right spots as well.
Yeah, and on weather, I know for the next origin, India, they've been massively affected by damage to their crops from the weather. What else are we seeing? What other takeaways should we see from India as well?
Yeah, I think, the India crop sort of this year, 85% sold already, not so much forward sold into next year. Differentially, looking not a bad price at the moment on Robustas as well as Arabica. So potentially India could be a point of value creation for a number of people if they want to sort of look in that direction or into 2022 shipments at the same time. Again, freight's been adding up, but getting bookings has also been a challenge out of there as well. Or seem to be playing the same record. I'll just shut up about that from now on. Just assume that those things happen everywhere now at the same time. But yeah, I think opportunities, and India is going to be one of those countries where we've got a decent Arabica production there, and it could be a place to look at for the coming 2022 crop as well.
Definitely. From India to Ethiopia, our favorite origin, keeps on our toes the most. Give us an idea of what's going on there. And what we can expect to see, and again, I think we touched on this briefly. We already want to be starting to talk about sourcing out of Ethiopia because of the challenges that we're going to face. Where are we with Ethiopia?
Yeah, I think definitely nothing keeps us on our toes more than Ethiopia, and big shout out to our partner on the ground, Getu, there at the same time, that helps us navigate all these challenges. I think the biggest thing at the moment is really understanding what the coffee board is going to do for the next crop. So that really prevents us from necessarily writing contracts, but at the same time, today's an opportunity for us to be engaging with co-ops and suppliers, and at least having an understanding of output and quality and yields. So when we know the mechanisms that we can write contracts, then we can get there, get the quality work done, and get that coffee in a box on the way to roasters at the same time. So it's sort of planned now so we can make fast decisions later on from the point of view of Ethiopia. It's definitely a challenge. We're seeing many challenges in that part of the world at the moment as they adjust to certain things. So well, hopefully that the crop is going to sort of come through. We don't see any weather issues for the crop on the horizon with the models that we're running at the moment. So fingers crossed, we're coming into the last 4 or 5 months of the cherry maturation phase. All goes well, and that we've got some really interesting coffees to be tasting in the near future.
And I know they're talking about this being sort of a bumper crop as well, which I guess is a good thing for quality, and also maybe it'll soften, hopefully, sort of some of the pricing as well. If there's lots of coffee available, then
yeah, we're looking at, I mean, a crop this year of 5.4 million up to over 7 million predicted. So yeah, that's a good lot. Again, we're at the mercy a little bit of what the coffee board does, so we want to understand what happens there. But definitely more coffee there means that we should have some really good options and to be able to create some value at the same time for roasters.
Yeah, definitely. Very excited to tick back around to Ethiopia. Another one of our faves is I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't have favorites. So forgive me for saying that. But Kenya as well is another origin. You mentioned something earlier about how much we've sold, or how much the crop is sold forward in Kenya, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah, well, I wish it was more us, but I guess the future crop's looking about 50% sold already as people continue to line up qualities and accept the differential movements that we've seen, especially in the commercial grades, where we had a real mismatch in gradings through this year's crop, with having just amazing coffees and not so much filtering into those commercial baskets. Well, hopefully that that will align and other things, but we haven't really seen a softening in differentials so much. I think there's an aspect as Kenya's in a number of people's core blends that you have to be having those contracts in so you can get those contracts out as early as possible into the harvest cycle. Because if we start buying in January, then it's going to be March, April shipment by the way that everything goes and bookings and everything. So for those people that need Kenya early, definitely be thinking about sort of registering interest and discussing that. So if you need coffee for early in the year, where you're planning those shipment cycles and everything, and allowing just a bit more time again for coffee to get to where it needs to be.
And with the specialty hat on, what sort of advice there? Sort of, get your requests in early and be confident with your pricing. Sort of, we're expecting relatively high prices as well. Is that the idea?
I would hope that things stay as they are. I think there's always a bit of elasticity in price, where if the base price goes up, people want to push the higher commercials and specialties up a bit higher. We're going to do all we can to create value and keep that price where we've been sort of buying last year where it can be. And I think some of that, again, has to do with creating interest and opportunity. So the likes of, hey, I need a Gathiathi or anything, then, I mean, get in touch now so we can be definitely registering that interest. Look at the outturns, because as we know, a wet meal is not about one coffee, but outturns over a season, and look for that best outturn for people at the same time. We know from going to Kenya before, it's about cupping many coffees, but today we can't go there. So we need to invoke our sort of virtual sourcing protocols, and big shout out to Andras and Mookie. That'll be our key cuppers for Condesa for the
Yeah.
upcoming crop at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, we've done Tanzania in the past. You know, we've had some solid successes working with the CPUs, the processing centers and units. What's Tanzania looking like for this coming crop? And yeah, what sort of takeaways there?
Yeah, I think production is more or less on par. We're seeing a bit of a reduction on the Robusta side, but Arabica side sort of more or less unchanged. A bit of drier weather going on, which has been good for drying activities for parchment and everything else with the current cycle we're in at the same time. But yeah, overall, I think Tanz is looking good. I just don't know if it's presenting quite the value that people want it to present right now at the same time. But definitely for its cycle just before at the moment, looking potentially interesting, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I know again, sort of moving on from Tanzania, we've often had challenges with Rwanda because it's that difficult thing of you know, old potato cropping up. Yet you know, I do know that they've had you know, relatively good harvest and things are looking good there. So perhaps there's an opportunity in Rwanda where there wasn't before. How do you see, you know, Rwanda fitting in? You know, yeah.
I think the Rwanda crop, again, crop to crop cycle looking consistent, not a huge amount sold yet for next year at the same time, playing the same cards on logistics, another thing being a bit of a challenge. What we've always tended to do here is, I guess, look a bit more into a Burundi or anything, but with the step change in price out of Burundi this year, then potentially Rwanda is presenting an equal amount of value today from that perspective. I think it's, again, working the brief and finding that right profile with the customer and looking for opportunities potentially to create a project and give back at the same time. There's many challenges, I think, also with COVID and other things, and Kigali and other places are locked down. So we hope that the good coffee gets out and gets to the right people. And if you're really interested in Rwanda, then definitely get in touch with Ollie.
Absolutely. And then you know, obviously, you know, we touched on it a little bit just a moment ago. You know, Burundi's not on the monthly report, but give us a sort of a bit of insight in you know, some of the challenges that Burundi have faced, because I know they have had many challenges with the size of the crop and yeah, what we can.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had a much reduced crop down. We couldn't even actually buy all the coffee we wanted to buy this year because it just wasn't there. Some mills were down 30%, some mills were down 50% or more. And that was a real challenge to work through that at the same time. I think with our sister company, Supremo, we've been able to engage, though, a couple of other mills that we're looking to continue and start working with. So widen our footprint of accumulation across Burundi, which is probably the best strategy in a low crop, but also work with key partners that have an alignment to the processing and distribution side that Supremo has worked well to create. Many challenges, probably too many to really go into in this short amount of time. But I think what's really promising is the cup scores coming out of the initial cupping, and I believe we've got some samples coming our way this month. So we'll have a bit more data for those that are working with us, and happy to share more. Again, get in touch with Ollie if you're thinking Burundi, although I don't think there's much left. Again, taste the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is an origin that I know you have your strong connections with. Indonesia. What are we expecting to see from Indonesia? Yeah, going forward.
Definitely. I mean, you got to think of Indonesia as two cycles. We've been through the first cycle. We're probably going to go through the next cycle later in the year. What I'm really interested is trying to actually buy some of the World Coffee Research hybrids, which is part of one of our sites that we work with, and really get them and taste them and give feedback to not only the project but World Coffee Research, and do something potentially with a roaster here in Australia or anywhere else. Please reach out to us in the comments below. Always wanted to say that. I think again, Indonesia's one that unfortunately and really hope that all our friends and farmers are doing okay, but COVID is having a disastrous effect there. Freight is challenging, movements are challenging at the same time. So weather is also challenging. I mean, I think we're seeing probably a lower crop around Aceh, Gayo region, where that's been our preferred sourcing area over the last couple of years, rather than the pure Sumatra mandolin quality, just pulling that little bit more fruitiness out of the Gayo terroir for those that have wanted Indonesia Arabica.
Thank you, Steve. That's awesome. And then I think let's sort of finish on with Vietnam. Obviously, because we have a number of team members who are from Vietnam. We know they're really facing some huge problems with COVID at the moment. And although with the Robusta side, that the impact of the Robusta prices on the Brazil, and the Arabica as well. That'd be interesting to get your insight.
Yeah, I mean, it's all looking forward to the crops and everything, and really the cycles get going after the we're probably very close now. We're within the point of liquidation of current crops before we go into October, November, December, pre-harvest, early harvest of the current crop on the trees at the same time. What's really scary is currently the whole of Vietnam is in lockdown at the same time, and impacting people and movements far beyond what we're seeing in Australia. Actually makes me feel very lucky to be where I am versus what's happening in other countries. And definitely our thoughts and prayers are with all the team over there and everybody that works with us at the same time, that they can continue to stay positive and get through it. I think Vietnam Arabica is something that could become interesting to a few people at the same time. The qualities have been getting better year on year, and there's a bit more that we can do with it now in terms of screen and cleanliness and other things that could provide value for those looking for a more consistent base Arabica than probably the centrals at the same time to mix. So could be an interesting thing to look at as we plan our Arabica sample exploration through the beginning of next year at the same time. There is a little bit of coffee out there still for the current crop, but in all what we're seeing with usage and everything, I think people's current usage is stretching. So my recommendation will be definitely looking to the 2022 crop in that instance for planning.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Good call. I just want to come back to shipment as well. I mean, you've mentioned obviously the fact there's delays, and there is this issue of getting food grade containers. But the other elephant in the room is the cost of shipping has gone up massively. Give us a bit more clarity on the reality there.
Yeah, I mean, it's frightening, and I think we've been lucky on the route to Australia at the same time, but there's definitely been double, triple, quadruple rate hikes for boxes going into America. that we've seen, and similarly into other places of Asia as well. So what we're seeing as well is, even if we're getting differential weakness, the increased freight costs are completely offsetting that. And sometimes when we're booking forward, that's a risk that we take to the client at the same time. So if I lock in my price with you for January delivery today, I've budgeted a rate. If that rate goes against me, then that's a challenging position for us. But that's what we plan and do at the same time. We honor that contract and we deliver. So it's definitely a challenging area where we're really thankful to be working with great people in that space. Shout out to Miss Trang, that really helps us get the best rates all the time as well, with all the work that she does. I think it's good to keep giving shout outs to people at the moment. So yeah, I think it's a challenging environment at the moment, and it just means that just in time is a really, really complex thing to try and manage and get perfect at the moment. And people need to be thinking more about buffering, a bit more contingency stock planning and other things. And that's maybe something we can touch on next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it. And on that note, yes, I think it's time to tie this up. And yeah, appreciate your time and look forward to chatting again this time next week, as you say.
Thanks, Ollie. Thanks, everyone. Take it easy. Stay sane. Stay caffeinated. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.